confidence lives in the land of awkwardness. Can you explain
Hmm.
that?
Yeah. I mean, here's just in the research, this fun truth emerged. The most confident people we know have not cracked the code on how to eliminate awkwardness, right? We see them and we're like, they never feel awkward about anything. They're so sure of themselves. They've got this. But here's by definition what's true about awkwardness. So my working definition of awkwardness is when the person we believe ourselves to be, our true self, is momentarily in a gap between the person that other people see on display. So we feel awkward when the person we believe ourselves to be, our true self, is at odds with the person that for that moment they see on display. For example, I am hanging out with a group of friends. I am singing a song lyric of a popular song we all love, and I sing the song lyric totally wrong. And everyone's like, what? Henna, what the hell did you just say? Right? I'm embarrassed. I feel awkward. The person I believe myself to be, somebody who like knew this song or, part of the group, is suddenly at odds with the person just for a moment that they saw on display. We feel embarrassed, we feel awkward, we feel cringe. Sometimes it's, much worse than that. Often it can be fleeting, right? It depends. But there's this gap space. And the truth of the matter is, awkwardness exists in uncertainty. We cannot engineer how people will react to us. We cannot engineer life. We can't always plan for, hey, I'm walking down the street, I'm going to trip over the crack in the sidewalk. We can't always engineer, hey, I'm going to raise my hand at work and suggest this idea. We don't know how it's going to land until we find out how it lands, right? There's other people in that room. So we cannot engineer the awkwardness out of life because that means getting rid of uncertainty, which most people have not figured out how to do. So when we think about confidence, the people that we perceive as confident are not people who have learned how to eliminate awkwardness. Instead, they run into it when they see it arrive. They go into situations where awkwardness is nearly guaranteed. And when they do experience it, which will happen to every single one of us, they have developed mindsets and tools and strategies for how to respond to those in the moment very quickly and move on. That's what we look at as confident. Those people are so confident because they don't linger in it. They don't let it freeze them in inaction. They don't ruminate on it. They just move on. And we look at them as they're confident. It's hand in hand. We don't get to detangle them.
Mhm. That tracks really well for me because I think of confidence as having intense trust in oneself. And
Hmm.
so if I have intense trust in myself and I go and I have this awkward encounter, like it doesn't phase me that much because I have this intense trust in myself that I can
Right.
overcome it or that I can continue moving
Yeah.
forward or that I can pivot from it or I can adjust from it. And so it makes sense to me that a confident person would be able to embrace their sort of awkwardness, which really means that they're embracing their uniqueness or their authenticity about themselves or the little blunder that
Yeah.
they made. Because everyone makes blunders or has mistakes, right? But the confident person is able to overcome them, so it attaches to awkwardness, really well. So that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
The addition I would make on this too is it's also the confident person isn't afraid of repetitions. So one
Mm,
of the reasons that I was very intent on writing this book right now is, we live in a world that is optimized for social smoothness, right? We don't even have to interact with each other that much anymore. We order our, DoorDash online. We don't like call the restaurant anymore. I saw a meme going around that said, all the doorbell companies are going out of business because we just text here, right? Like here, I'm in the driveway. We don't ring the doorbell. We don't knock on the door. I was born in the early 80s where we had to get up in front of the class and sharpen our pencils. Apparently, like the teachers do it now at the beginning of the class, right? There's so few opportunities now for social mishap that we now don't have the practice in these kind of social blunders that we used to have more often and more naturally. We just don't have to talk to strangers that much anymore. And so what happens is these muscles weaken. These are specific mental muscles. They're social mental muscles, like every other mental muscle, that when they're not used regularly, they can atrophy, they can weaken. So now in this modern era that we live in, we actually have to be all the more intentional about creating opportunities not only to flex, just general mindset muscles, but specifically the social ones, because the world keeps optimizing away from them. But unless you either work by yourself entirely, I don't know many jobs that are entirely by themselves, unless you're like an astronaut, right? Most jobs, you interact with people. Most athletics teams, you interact with people. So keeping your social muscles strengthened is a competitive advantage right now. And it's one that the world is not making easy for us. So we actually have to over index on being intentional with those reps, putting ourselves out there a little bit more than the world wants us to do.